As we enter into 2004, Yu-Gi-Oh! Begins to speed up a touch with the introduction of new cards that would vastly overcorrect the balance of certain strategies. With these releases, the first true FTK would emerge into the metagame, and the game itself would never be the same. I'm the Law Yugioh, this is Retro Retrospective, and today we jump back to February 2004 with Vampire format.
Psst, hey, real quick, did you know that only about 20% of people who watch my content are subscribed? If you like what you see, leave a like, comment, and subscribe below. Thanks, it really does help a lot.
As we creep ever closer to the first Tier 0 format in the game's history, the writing may have been on the wall with the releases of late 2003, as the game was already showing signs of significant speed-ups. Starting in Magician's Force in October 2003, some cards from this specific set would not only power creep major meta staples, but also define entire new deck types. Without question, the most recognizable of these was Magical Scientist, who could, for the cost of 1,000 per activation, special summon a level 6 or lower fusion from the extra deck, but it could not attack directly and was returned at the end of the turn. This effect, while seemingly balanced on the surface, was the key piece of the new Magical Scientist FTK, a strategy that aimed to use its effect to fuel the effective Catapult Turtle to quickly launch burn damage at the opponent. This was also supported by cards like Last Will, which had been available since Yu-Gi Kaiba format, but never really had a purpose until now, able to access both Scientist and Turtle with its effect. Aside from this, the set also had multiple new threats to bolster some older decks in the format, like Luster Dragon and Skilled Dark Magician, both being level 4s with 1900 attack, but had too high of defenses to be searched with Witch of the Black Forest like previous beatdown threats. Breaker the Magical Warrior also had 1900 on summon thanks to its effect to gain a spell counter, but could trade that 300 attack boost to destroy a spell or trap on field instead, making it the newest staple monster of the format thanks to its versatility. Tribe Infecting Virus would fill a niche similar to that of Exiled Force, being used with priority to remove monster threats from the board. However, Tribe's cost was a discard instead of a tribute, and it nuked all monsters of a given type, meaning if it survived its first effect usage, it could do it repeatedly to clear a board until you ran out of resources to use the effect. Giant Orc provided another Goblin Attack Force styled beater to join the pool, and Neko Mane King provided an interesting way to counter out various hand control strategies by ending the opponent's turn if it gets hit out of hand. Royal Magical Library provided the footing for various amounts of OTKs involving drawing the pieces of Exodia by looping spell cards and drawing cards with its effect. Kaiser Coliseum would eventually become one of the most annoying floodgates to deal with, limiting the opponent from summoning more monsters than the controller. In a similar vein, Rivalry of Warlords prevented players from controlling monsters of more than one type, which would be useful for decades following as a popular floodgate in many formats. Wave Motion Cannon and Secret Barrel provided more burn options to the growing pool as extremely potent burn effects that could easily reach the thousands. Lastly, for Magician's Force, My Body as a Shield was a way to block destruction effects for the cost of 1500 life points, which would be used on occasion to prevent blowouts like Dark Hole and Raigeki. Moving into Dark Crisis, released in December 2003, a couple of cards from this fairly unassuming set would enter the metagame and make themselves known fairly quick. Vampire Lord was one of these, a level 5 2000 attack zombie that revived itself each turn if destroyed by the opponent's card effects, being able to be cheated out with Pyramid Turtle. This would be the boss needed to bring zombies into the format, although they were still around the mid-tiers with him in the pool. Reflect Bounder reflected the attack of a monster that attacked into the opponent's life points at the cost of its own life, being a great body for burn damage. Gyakugai or Panda would find some amounts of play in burn strategies thanks to the addition of Ojama Trio in the same set, giving the opponent 3 useless tokens to boost Gyakugaier and burn the opponent. DD Warrior Lady was unquestionably the card of the set, able to banish herself in anything that she battles after damage calculation, being one of the most reliable removal options in the game. Tsukiyomi was the new spirit monster that served as a Book of Moon on legs, able to flip monsters for easier destruction in battle, or to set up cards like Noblemen of Crossout. Butterfly Dagger Elma was one of the more unassuming cards, but its effect to return to hand anytime it was destroyed became the linchpin in an OTK thanks to Royal Magical Library and Gearfried the Iron Knight, who destroyed any equip spell equipped to him. This meant that you could infinitely activate Elma to put counters on Library and draw into Exodia, which was a fairly clunky OTK, but still present in the meta. Final Countdown was another alternate win condition card added here, which gave 20 turns to finish the duel, or else the user won by default. Skill Drain would become one of the most infamous cards of this set, shutting off all effects on field for the cost of 1,000 life points, which would be used in various beatdown strategies to prevent the downsides of monsters like Goblin Attack Force and Giant Orc. Lastly, Sakuretsu Armor was the other big staple of the set, destroying any monster that declared an attack, being considered a weaker version of Mirror Force, but in a format that greatly appreciated the effect. With all of these releases, the ban list would need to be updated to reflect the shift in the meta. Limited now would be Breaker, Magical Scientist, Reflect Founder, Tribe Infecting Virus, Vampire Lord, and Butterfly Dagger Elna, with the only other change being Morphing Jar moving from limited to semi-limited. With that, what are the big decks of the format? Obviously Hand Control was still the big deck of the format, but it no longer was so cut and dry. With DD Warrior Lady not being on the limited list, the Warrior Toolbox would gain a strong foothold in the format with her, Exiled Force, and other niche warriors like Slate Warrior and Zombira the Dark. In addition to these control decks, there were also combo decks like the Scientist FTK and Jarburn readily played, and even some more aggro options like Zombies and Light Beatdown thanks to the expanded viable Light attribute pool. Here are some lists from the recent FormatLibrary tournaments, such as Wawa's Warrior Control, Elitican's Scientist FTK, and Fusion's Jarburn, although this really does just scratch the surface of this particular format. Vampire format shows a lot of promise as a DM era format that has the potential to be diverse, but the diversity would not last in this landscape. As many people know, the set that followed Dark Crisis would not only change the meta of the game, it would change how the game was played forever, as the early formats are coming to an end and we enter the first true Tier 0 format.